Hey, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Rachel Abady. Rachel, welcome to the show, and I appreciate you taking time to be here. You have a cool story, and I'm excited to jump into it. You're the co-founder and you're the CMO of the world's first sharing app. It's called Manna Cooking. I'm gonna show everybody just a quick example of what it is right here. And what I love about it is it's all about not just recipes, not just customization, not just having things in one place, but really it's all about community. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about, tell me a little bit about the soul of kind of where the business came from, how it kind of came to be.
Sure. John, thanks for having me. This
Yeah.
is great. Great to see you. Lovely to talk
Good to
to
see
you.
you.
So Manna Cooking, the sort of soul and ethos behind it, like you said, it's a community platform, and it was started by my own personal community. So I co-founded it with my brother, Josh, who's our CEO, our best friend, Guy Greenstein, who's our CTO and built the app, and his dad, David Greenstein, who is the head of an incubator and sort of helps young entrepreneurs start their businesses. And so it really started with our own personal networks of community and family. And we grew up in New York as New York Jews, which means we ate a lot of food together all the time, whether it be holiday time. Happy belated Hanukkah to anyone who celebrates. Thanksgiving was just recent. And Guy's mom is actually a professional private chef, and many of her clients are kosher or vegan or have dietary restrictions. And so Guy, who went to school and became an engineer and software developer, was in the kitchen one day watching her, and he said it looked like CSI Miami, where you have the crime scene boards with Post-its here, cookbooks there, notes here, swapping in and out ingredients, scribbling in the margins, because he's such just sort of a tech nerd. He was like, oh, I'll find you an app for that. And then he didn't really find one. He found amazing apps that are publishers and repository organizers, but nothing was really like empowering users or being able to share directly with people in your community, be it clients or friends. So he approached Josh, his best friend, who used to be a professional poker player, who's been entrepreneurial his whole life, and had the idea for him. And then Josh pitched me. And at the time, I was working at Vox Media after having a stint at the New York Times and the Huffington Post. And I had always worried about audience development and community. And so the three of us came together and have always had a lifelong passion for food for many different reasons. And we thought, this is a real business. Like, there's something missing from what's out there. So we put together a business plan and a brand plan and really wanted to make this about community and customization, like you said, and pitched it to David Greenstein, who's our chairman of the board. And like I said, he runs an incubator called Wonder Brands, and it's all about young entrepreneurs with good ideas and helping them get to the next level. And here we are 2.5 years later with an app, an advisory board. We're in an incubator called Interplay. We had beta testers, and tomorrow the app actually launches publicly on the App Store for the first time. So this is a pretty auspicious day to be talking to you.
Well, good. Well, perfect timing. So, it's so interesting you talk about, scribbling in the margins, with technology today and the internet. I just recently watched this clip from 1994 with Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel, and they were talking about the internet. Like, what is it? What exactly is it? It's hilarious. You should Google it. It's hilarious. But
I will.
But, my mom was a big cook. I'm Jewish. I grew up in a Jewish home. Everybody was cooking and food and this. But the recipe cards with the scribbles on it, right? Those are going away, right?
Yeah.
And so, and there's an energy to those recipe cards and the the writings in the books, and and so how do you recreate that, right? How do you kind of recreate the flour stains and the handwriting? You know what I'm talking about.
Totally.
How do you recreate that energy?
I love that. That's such a great question. And you kind of really tapped into like the seedling that was like the passion behind it for all of us. And like, I think the magic of all recipes happens in the storytelling, but I think the storytelling has to happen the right way. Storytelling is like the oil stain on your latke recipe, or the scribbling in because your grandmother had a better idea for adding, 30 cloves of garlic instead of 5 to a recipe.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what's happening with online recipes, I'm a massive subscriber to different food influencers and publications, but the formatting is always kind of like all over the place, and there's no uniformity, and it's not actually always about the person who has the phone in their hand trying to cook this recipe.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of bring a technology solution to the sort of magic of old world recipe cards. And we're sort of trying to recreate or infuse that magic into our product in a few ways. One way is, it's not live yet, but we're building out a feature where you can actually take pictures of recipes, AKA recipes with the stains on them, grandma's recipes, your recipes, and import them directly into the app. So you have like a safe, codified digital way of keeping your recipe, and then sharing it with your loved ones and friends, right? And then so if you had your grandmother's recipe for a noodle kugel and you wanted to share it with me, you could upload it into the app instantly, and then I could put my spin on it, and then we create this beautiful recipe chain, which is like a community conversation of John's version, Rachel's version, then David's version, then Guy's version. So that's really special. And then that's the actual recipe functionality itself. And then where we really want to keep the storytelling, though, is in the social feed. And so we're trying to sort of take the best parts of Instagram and Twitch and Reddit and Facebook and really turn it into a place where when you share a recipe in the feed in Manna, it's an actual recipe. It's not a wall of text where you have to click 6 links to get to the link in bio. So that's where you get to have this recipe, which is formatted in our proprietary format, which means no ads, no BS, no sort of scrolling back and forth, everything you need. And then when you post it in the social feed, you're telling your community and your audience, like, hey, here's the story I want to tell about why I'm sharing this amazing recipe with you. You can share photos of your grandmother. People can comment and DM you the recipe and tag you and ask you questions. And so like, that's where we think the magic happens. So we're trying to recreate the best parts of sort of family recipes and also recipes from influencers, chefs, really great home cooks, and allow people to have the functionality of a recipe where it's formatted so you can actually use it properly and customize it when you're in the kitchen with your hands knee deep in flour, and then also still get the sort of like human community magic by interacting with people in the actual platform.
Yeah. And I would think, is video part of your platform?
Yes. So tomorrow we'll go live with video. So we have video, photo, text, and we're going to build out video features eventually to have live video. But right now you can upload videos of yourself cooking, a la Instagram Reels, any kind of video you want. And we see that as really powerful too, because that's what gets people excited and lights people up. Food is so visual and so personal.
Oh, yeah. And I would think that, even as you evolve into the live, there will be so much more to the evolvement of that, where people can, we just finished Hanukkah, like you were saying, and, making latkes or, whatever, does applesauce, et cetera, et cetera.
Totally.
So, I love the whole foundation of the community that you built, the storytelling that you're talking about, the intent of storytelling that you put into the soul and the DNA of the company, because people are always storytelling in business. They don't necessarily realize it. They don't necessarily maybe define it as that. I think it's one of those things, they'll say, well, what makes that good, or what makes this good, or whether it's a product or a service or an app. Well, it's typically the backstory, the story, and how it's marketing the story. And so how do you market your story, right? How do you market yourselves as an app that's coming out tomorrow? So December 7th, 2021. How do you market yourself? How do you package that and message the story to give that just, that feel from your kishkas, if we're talking about Jewish food, right?
I felt that in my kishkas, actually, when you said that.
Well, when you say kishkas, you can viscerally feel it, right? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love this. I can't wait to send this to my parents. They're going to fell. I think that's such a great question. I think the way I think about it is sort of, it's what do you want to say and who are you telling it to? So it's about having sort of different versions of the same message to get people excited about the different entry points and what you're trying to market and do. And part of that, in my opinion, is show, don't tell. I can tell you till the night comes about why I think this app is phenomenal and different and new and innovative. And I'm happy to do that. But the best thing I can do is show you so that you get a sense of why you should join us, right? So one of the things we're doing is partnering with a bunch of different chefs and recipe developers and avid home cooks and influencers and different CPG brands who are sort of weaving the app into their daily function of cooking and preparing and shopping and editing recipes and showing you why they use it. The app is really powerful for people who have dietary restrictions. It's part of the reason we started this. And so we're partnering with someone who's going to do a bunch of gluten-free recipes. We're partnering with someone who is a very busy mom and has sort of 30-minute meal options. And so like part of it is going to be recipe videos, actually uploading those recipes into our app, doing really great product giveaways that you can use to cook in the kitchen. And again, show, don't tell. And all of these people that we're partnering with have like a really unique and specific point of view on food. And, you know, our tagline, making food easy, really what that means is like making it work for you, right? Like adapting to your lifestyle, whether that means, oh my God, I only have 20 minutes every day to feed myself, all the way to, hey, I have to eat a low FODMAP diet or I can't function for the day.
Yeah.
And so I think those stories are personal but universal, just like food, right? Everybody eats, but everybody eats differently. So we're trying to showcase the different voices that can get like a swath of people excited about our app because they connect to the, hey, that makes sense to me, or hey, that's aspirational to me, or hey, I could make that. And so that's really the sort of, like, I would say, like, philosophy behind our marketing.
Yeah, I love that. You know, so here's my 2 cents of what Instacart 2.0 is going to look like, right? So you're familiar with Instacart.
Yeah, heard of them.
Yeah. So you take your company and an Instacart company, and then there's people out there who will not only go buy the groceries for the recipe, but come to your house and actually cook it, right? So it's like called, I'm gonna make up a name right now, Chef Instacart, right? So it's like, you know, powered by Manna, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, pick a recipe, it automatically gets put into your cart. A chef gets notified, a local chef, they go buy the groceries, they come to your house and they make you dinner. I mean, talk about made easy. That's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I would love to see that.
You totally nailed. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, selfishly.
Yeah. Let me write that down.
Yeah.
But I think you really honed in on what one of our big goals for launch is. Obviously, our number one goal is growing the community, getting people to download the app, add their color and culinary creations, start sharing and getting value. But the second thing we want to do to really sort of fulfill the promise of encapsulating the whole life cycle of food is exactly that. Right now in our app, you can find inspiration by going through our swipe mode, which is kind of like Tinder for recipes and saving and discovering recipes. You can customize them, you can share them, but you can't shop for them yet. And so we actually have like a coming soon button in our app for grocery to show that like, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And the fact that you kind of came to that conclusion already shows that like you're thinking into the future in the way that we are. I would love to have a chef come to my home included in that. I would probably never leave my house again if that were the case, which doesn't sound too bad to me. But that's right. Like we want people to have the agency and sort of flexibility that we've all sort of come accustomed to learn from being inside in the pandemic for so long. The world is obviously changing and opening up. But I think that staying power is like, I need life to work for me, and the conveniences of food and sort of sharing food and preparing food can be that much easier with a platform like Manna.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so let's talk about you and your brother. You know, I worked with my brother. My brother and I started an internet company. I was talking about the Today Show earlier. My brother and I started an internet company in 1995, and it was great. I loved working with my brother. But sometimes I would have to say to him, like, "Hey, stop talking to me like I'm your little brother," right? So there, especially when we're at a company meeting. But I loved it. We started that company. We sold that company. It was an amazing experience. But you know, to people who are listening, who are thinking about going into business with family, or are in business with their family, as a business coach, I work with a lot of families. You know, what's it like working? What's the secret sauce? They say, keeping with the food, of working with your family.
Yeah, great question, and congrats. And it sounds like you still like your brother, so you did it right.
Yeah, my brother and I have actually been looking for something to do together. He podcasts a lot, I podcast a lot. So we actually created a side thing where we teach people how to podcast.
Great. I love that.
So we get their podcast up and running. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, I think the secret sauce, you know, I worked in corporate media for 10 years. I learned so much from it. I loved it. But the thing that always felt risky in a way is like being able to be as vulnerable as you want with a coworker when you're doing something really hard. Yeah. And so for me and for
without
Josh,
them stabbing you in the back and trying
or just like sort of larger political consequences at work. And we have this, to me, it's like a really special privilege to be able to work with Josh. I'm the elder millennial, I'm the older sibling, but in a way, we've always been really close and have always wanted to work together. And we have such different skills that it's really not competitive, it's complementary. And I think our parents did a really good job at instilling in us that, like, if your sibling does something good, it's good for you too. And you should just be proud. And so I think the secret sauce there is just like really knowing your strengths and weaknesses and the other person's, and just being open to that. And I trust him completely, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And same with Guy, who's our other co-founder. He's like a brother from another mother. I've known him since he was 12 years old.
Yeah.
He's been Josh's best friend since he was 12. His dad is our original investor and incubator. There's just so much trust and invest in the other person. And so I think the secret sauce for us is really just communication. Like we are in this together. Our success and our failure is mutual. And so much of it is like, I just wouldn't trust anybody else to do this business with. And so I think if you're going to go into business with family, obviously I only recommend it if you feel like it'll make your relationship stronger and your foundations there. We obviously butt heads sometimes because we're human, but it's never for a reason that's not valid. And so if we ever have a bad day or one person's snippy, there's just instant forgiveness because we're always in it together. Like the other day, we were all really stressed and one of us was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry I snapped." And we all said, "No problem, we're stressed, move on." And like, you can't do that with anybody else in the same way. So I just think, like, just make sure that if you go into business with family, there's incredible amounts of trust, understanding, and just like knowing who's good at what and how to help each other. And I think that's really part of the reason the three of us were so excited to work together. Guy is our coder and building the app. I can't do that. Josh can't do that. I'm the person who's had sort of marketing experience and real world corporate experience and relationships. And then Josh is like terrific with entrepreneurial connections, legal stuff, money, in a way that like doesn't sort of, it's not my passion. And so there's just such a natural synergy there. I would say vulnerability, communication, forgiveness, and also love. Like at the end of the day, we still hug and say, "I love you" at the end of it every day. And like, I can't, if you do that in a regular office, you're violating HR. So I think, I think that's really it. You really have to trust and believe in the other person, because you're making a bet on the other person too. Like I'm making a bet on myself as much as I am on Josh.
Yeah. I love that story. When my brother and I started our business, I just graduated college. I was 23. He was 25. We both were living at home, sharing a room, building the business in my parents' basement, and working 100 hours a week. So we were literally together, nonstop. It was great.
Yeah, I think it's great.
So tell me this. So you mentioned your parents earlier. And what a great job they did. What's one thing that each of your parents taught you, and that you can appreciate now in hindsight that you didn't appreciate when they tried to teach it to you?
These are such good questions. Let me think about this. I think, I think one thing that my dad taught me was often the people with the least amount of power will abuse it the most. And I don't think I totally understood that. And I think I learned in my career and in business, like, a lot of people who feel small or feel threatened by other people's intelligence or skills will sort of try and strong arm you. And I don't think I totally got what he meant when he was telling me, because I think he must have told me in middle school when someone was being like mean to me or trying to like step over me on the volleyball game. And I remember thinking, what does he even mean about it? And then I remember a few years ago having kind of like an unfortunate work experience where that happened. And I was like, I get it. Like people who feel small or threatened will try and make you feel small. So it's all about that. So that was really, really important advice. And then
envy and jealousy. My parents always raised me, don't ever be jealous of anybody. Everybody, is just doing the best they can. Wish the best for everybody. But envy and jealousy will take you down. And, I always find that, most people kind of vibrate at a very low level. And so you can't come down to that level.
Yeah.
It's
totally.
Sometimes you want to, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes not to. But
I think so too. And I think
it's important to stay high. Yeah.
And from my mom, she always, whenever I felt like, oh, I'm being divergent from this sort of like path of success. And I was sort of nervous to take on this opportunity. She always said, like, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I get what she means. There's more than one path, but I think it's really been like a mantra for me anytime I've tried to do something off the beaten path or new or different or unexpected. And that's something that I really keep with me. And like, just because there's a standard way of doing something doesn't mean there's not another way that can achieve the same amount of goodness, success, results, etc. So I think those two things have always really helped me.
Good. Those are good. And what's one thing you learned about yourself over starting this new business?
Oh, how much time do you have? I think something I've really learned is that I'm a pretty adaptable person, and it's necessary to be an entrepreneur. I think being a middle child maybe does that to you, where you're sort of always sort of the glue or in the middle of things. But it's this thing where getting comfortable with uncertainty was really hard for me in the beginning of this business. And now I think it's something that sort of, in a weird way, freed me of my, I would say, like, previous desire to be kind of perfect and on top all the time when it comes to work. I love what I do. I loved what I did before this. I always wanted to do a really terrific job. I love working with other people. So anytime I didn't think I had done the best job I could do, I would kind of beat myself up about it. And being an entrepreneur where there's only 3 of you doing about 30 people's jobs, you don't have time to be that precious about what you do. And so it's been really good for me to sort of learn how adaptable I am, and also just learn to let go of sort of what I thought, and just kind of depersonalize success and failure in a way, and just be like, okay, that didn't work. Cool. We'll try something else.
Right,
I think that used to be really hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What would your brother say he's learned from you?
How to write emails.
Okay. That's good. That's an art. That's important. That's important. What's one thing you took from your corporate world, right? You worked at Huffington and some great jobs. What's one thing you took in the corporate world and put it into this business?
I think just like, in my experience, getting people to work with you on something requires you understanding where they're coming from and what their goals are, and sort of just like showing people and reminding people that you have the same goal and that working together is better. I used to work in like massive collaborative newsrooms, which is both, I would say, like incredibly fun and incredibly difficult. So cross-functional teams, I think the chaos of breaking news and the sort of absolute necessity of getting a lot of people to work with you on something hard at the same time has been probably the biggest skill that I have taken to this team. And, Josh and Guy, who are very brilliant at what they do, are younger and haven't sort of had the same experience of working in a corporate office setting. And so I think that is probably the biggest thing I've taught them. And, when I say writing emails, like part of that, I would say Josh says too, I really hone in on like relationship building and finding common ground, and just like always remembering like, okay, what do you need and what do you want? And how does that align with me? And how can we do this together?
Yeah. I love it. Adaptability, that's what colleges are teaching right now, right? Critical thinking, adaptability, because studies are showing that by the year 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist do not exist today. So it's crazy. And, they're also showing, that just the jobs are so dramatically changing, specifically by the year, I think 2025, 85 million jobs will become, I may be getting this wrong a little bit, I can't remember off the top of my head, but may become obsolete, but 97 new jobs will replace that. So we've got to be innovative. We've all got to adapt. We've all got to pivot. It's so critical. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that phrase adapt or die, although daunting, is really true. And I just don't think it's threatening. People get so freaked out like, oh, this 22-year-old's going to take my job. And it's like, I had a boss who was really smart once and said, the best thing you can do is hire people who are smarter than you so that a team runs the same, whether or not you're around. And like, that's to me is like connects to adapt or die. Like if you know that being adaptable is a necessity for survival, find the people who are going to sort of innovate for you and with you and like help you lead that charge. I think it's exciting.
Well, I think it's very exciting. And I think everybody needs to take on the responsibility that we need to evolve our human skills. Right. And so I think, a lot of times people don't think like this, but 1980 and 2021 are as far apart as 1980 and 1939.
Woo!
So when you think about the world in 1939 to 1980,
Yeah.
right? We don't think about that same difference from 1980 to 2021.
Totally.
Because it just seems like 1980 was last week, but that's not the fact. So if you're not growing and evolving your human skills, I see it as a business coach all the time. I coach solopreneurs to fortune companies and everything in between, owners, managers, salespeople, etc. If you're not growing and learning something new and growing your skill set and your craft, then you're going to fall behind. You're going to absolutely fall behind. So I think it's so important. Adaptability, I think, is key. All right, quick speed round. You ready, Rachel?
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite book and why?
Favorite book and why? That's a really good question. I think I love A Drinking Life by Pete Hamill.
Okay.
He grew up in Brooklyn. He became a reporter. I started in media and news, and I love that. He grew up as an Irish immigrant and had a severe drinking problem. And he kind of used that story to infuse himself into like how he grew up in Brooklyn at the time and sort of becoming a success, even though he was kind of running around. It's just beautifully written. It's personal. It's redemption. It's a flawed character. And also it's Brooklyn. I grew up in New York. It's my home. I live in Brooklyn. And there's something just like really special about the way he describes it. And I just reread it recently for the first time in about 10 years. And it just really stuck with me about how much I love that book.
Nice. That sounds beautiful. I wanted to be the next Larry King. I in college, I double majored in economics and journalism, but I worked at the local radio station that I would drive to 3 days a week and intern. So I that was definitely something I wanted to do. So I love that you're talking about a lot of the things that, the deadlines and this. I loved all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Best piece of wisdom you've ever received. Let's see. Pineapple does not belong on pizza is one. And then maybe a more profound one is when people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yeah. Okay, good. Favorite Yiddish word?
Oi.
Hey, it's a good one.
Oi.
All right, good.
Yeah,
good.
I say it more than I say anything else.
Right. Tell people where they can connect with you, learn more about the app, download the app, the company, etc.
Yeah, awesome. You can download the app on the App Store if you have an iPhone or an iPad. It's Manna Cooking in the App Store. And you can connect with me on our website, which is manna-app.com, or my email, which is just rachel.abady@manna-app.com. And so we're all over our websites, and I have an Instagram, which is rnabady. So DMs are open, emails open. Would love to hear from anybody. And I think part of building a business right now is really being open to the community you're trying to invite in. So anybody watching, I'd love to talk to you.
I love it. Well, hey, Rachel, I appreciate you talking about the importance of storytelling, the importance of adaptability, but most importantly, the importance of family, right? And taking the energy of your family and really putting it into your business and your app, because your app brings so much joy as food does, and gives people direction to make food easy. So thanks for creating a really cool app with your brother, Josh. And, it was great connecting with you. And, I wish you all the best. It was great. So I know we were supposed to do a different interview and then my internet went down. So I'm glad we got this working, and this was great. Think community, if Rachel can be of any assistance to you, reach out to her. If not, Manna Cooking, it can be found in the App Store. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you so much, John. A pleasure.